Hey folks, it's time to barbecue. It's really hot outside, too hot to cook in the kitchen. And I'm gonna have my first, get this, my first 4-course meal in a year, in over a year. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to Pine Meadows Hobby Farm. I'm your host, Jerry Hansen. Yeah, it's been over a year since I sat down and had a 4-course meal. For those of you who haven't been following us, I started a lifestyle change over a year ago on June 21st. The exact date is when I started that lifestyle change. I changed my eating habits and started, well, grazing. 100 calories once every 2 hours, and that way I would never get hungry. I dropped almost, well, I dropped a total of 92 pounds, I think. It was a total of 92 pounds. My goal is to lose 100 pounds. I'm still working on that last 8 pounds. And I tell you what, it's been tough. But I have lost so much, I am celebrating. For one thing, look at my garden. I mean, all of my hard work and efforts I've been taking in the garden and getting it planted. This is June, middle of June, and I have some vegetables to harvest today. So we're going to go ahead and harvest a select few vegetables. And I pulled out a couple of cuts of New York steak. Let me show you what I'm doing. So in preparation, 2 days before the barbecue, I took the steak, I took the steak out 4 days before the barbecue from the freezer to thaw. And then I marinated it in a bath of beer and I personally let it soak for 2 days in the refrigerator, making sure it was totally thawed out and that beer just permeated it. So we're going to drain the beer off, and then I have this steak rub I'm going to put on the steak, both sides, and we're going to set it on a medium heat on the barbecue. And we're going to slow cook this steak for a couple hours. The slower you cook your steak, the more tender it is. You don't want to dry your steak out. So to this, we're going to come out here to the garden, and I'm going to harvest. Well, here is, see what I've got to harvest. I've got a squash. There's a little squash here that I can harvest. Ooh, fresh squash. We're going to go over here, and I spotted a mature turnip the other day. Boiled turnip. Yeah, we're going to boil this puppy, and we're going to boil it with the squash. What I'm going to do is dice up the squash, cut them in big chunks, and we're going to throw it into the water bath. And with the turnip, we're just going to remove the top and the roots, the leader roots, and we're going to go ahead and scrub it clean, and just a whole turnip we're going to set in this water bath. Now the turnip does take longer to cook than the squash. We're just going to leave the squash in there for 5 minutes. We're going to pull the squash out. Set them aside, and don't worry about it. We're going to let the turnip continue to simmer on a low heat while the steaks are cooking. On top of the steaks, I did harvest some radishes. Uh, you guys haven't tried, oh, roast radish. Yeah, I got some radish growing in the garden. I went and harvested them, cleaned them up, cut off the root and the top, and I'm just going to lay them on top of the steak and let the radish cook with the steak, slow cook. I'm not going to cook them too long because I still want them to have that bite, but I want them to be tender, not crispy. And they'll still retain that flavor of a radish. Now, there's a way you can slow roast a radish. Just saute it in butter and roast it in an oven, turning it every 15 minutes. You get butter and garlic is what I use to cook roasted radish. And I usually use the large variety of radish when I do that. So it's really delicious. You guys ought to try it sometime. So another crop I'm going to harvest. We have some mature Swiss chard. I'm just going to cut some leaves off of the Swiss chard. And then also I have some peas growing. I'm going to cut a select few pea pods. And then we're going to wash them. Then I'm going to cut the stems off, and don't worry, I'm going to feed the stems to the rabbits. The rabbits are going to really enjoy this treat. But with the leaves, I'm just going to put a cast iron skillet on the side burner of my barbecue, and I'm going to melt some butter in it. To this, I'm going to add some minced garlic. And then we're going to wilt the leaves of the Swiss chard. And then after they're wilted, we're going to set those aside. We're going to add the pea pods, whole pea pods, and we're going to roast those on the open pan, just as is. Once everything is cooked, and I like my steak kind of well done, not too well, but just well done. I want it cooked through and through. We're going to go ahead and remove the steak from the burners with the radishes. We're going to set those aside, and then we're going to go ahead and put that pot of water that we cooked the turnip and the squash in. We're going to return those to the heat, and we're going to heat them up. And it only takes about 3 to 5 minutes. Remove those from the heat, drain the water off, and we're going to serve those up. Now we have this beautiful 4-course meal that is New York cut steak, marinated in beer, with a steak rub on it, variety of different spices. We have radishes we cooked with the steak. Then we have another dish of Swiss chard that is wilted in butter and garlic along with pea pods. That's another dish. And then we have the turnip, the boiled turnip, and then the boiled squash. This is a 4-course meal. Of course, this is my first meal in over a year. And I'm gonna sit down here at my kitchen table and enjoy it. Okay, now it's time to taste. The barbecue radish, a little bit of a bite, but a different texture, and it's wonderful. The boiled turnip, fresh out of the garden. Turnips, wonderful. The fresh picked squash right out of the garden just hours ago. Okay, that was delicious. Fresh picked grilled pea pods sauteed in butter and garlic. Still has their crunch and their firmness. I like it. Full of nutrients. Swiss chard. Sauteed in butter and garlic. Kind of like spinach. This is my favorite green. The vegetables, perfect. And now, let's do something I haven't done in a year because I've been on a diet or a modified lifestyle change. I'm going to try some of this New York cut steak. Okay, this was marinated in beer for 2 days and then cooked slowly on the barbecue. Never had it this way before. Put that rub on it. And it's just the right amount of flavor. Nice and tender. I can almost cut it with a butter knife. Okay. That's my recipe. I'm gonna enjoy the meal. You guys take care. Please subscribe. Click that bell icon, that'll alert you to new videos as I upload them. Also, if you can, give us a thumbs up, like the show, and be safe and always be kind. We'll see you guys in the next video. Alright, bye-bye.